Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene. We're empowered by love. We transform ourselves and serve our world. My name is Jennifer Hackett. My pronouns are she, her, and I am delighted to serve as the ministerial intern of this church this year. With me today is the minister of this church, the Reverend Lois Van Leer, board member Andrew Emmett, musical magician and director of our music program, Mitch Davey, collaborative pianist, Suzanne Giordano, and behind the scenes working tech is the amazing Kat Johnson. Welcome to all of you. Brand new and long-term, we're so glad you're with us here today. The announcements today, a reminder that you can use the closed captioned function at the bottom of your screen. We're delighted to be able to offer this accessibility function for you today. You also can turn it off if you don't want to have that going on. Black Church, the PBS series, is something that we're starting to view collectively together this Thursday evening at 7. We'd be delighted to have you join us for about 45 minutes of viewing, 15 or so minutes of discussion. If you're interested, join me. I'm going to host this week. Revlo will be with you next week, and we'll both be with you the week after that, and I think the last week too. So just 4 viewings at about an hour each. Looking forward to those discussions. Challenging Racism group starts today at 11:30, and I will be doing a special presentation. So you don't have to be like a usual member to come. You're welcome to come, anybody in the audience today, in the congregation today. I'll be presenting a few things that I've learned this year, as well as at the New Day Rising conference that we just had last weekend. A special welcome to our visitors today. We're so glad that you found us in the interwebs. We're going to drop a visitor form into the chat right now. And if you are able to fill that out, you can do it after the service. It helps us to know who you are and how to reach out best to you and help to serve you. Welcome to the annual Stewardship Kickoff Day. Woohoo! This is when we recognize that it takes funds to run a church. Because this has been such a disconnecting kind of year, fellow congregants will be reaching out to members to connect to you personally. Please take their call and chat with them by phone or video. It is meant to be a 90% hi, how are you, how have you been, I am so glad to meet you or get to see you or get to hear your voice again. And 10%, don't forget it's pledge time. So it's a very soft connecting moment. So please take those calls, don't ignore them. We're looking to get connected to each other. We are a church who has already had 27 members offer their pledge for the new church year out of our 344 members. Did you know we were that big? That's impressive. And that's it for announcements. I'd like to introduce board member Andrew Emmett to you today. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, I send you greetings on behalf of the UUCE Board of Trustees. I am large member at large, Andrew Emmett. I have a few items for you today. This Friday, we have a board social hour at 6 p.m. on Zoom. You can find the link on our website or in Weekly Connections. 2, if you would like to attend General Assembly as a delegate of UUCE, please contact us, that is the board, and let us know you would like to be considered. General Assembly is in late June and is 100% virtual. Things to keep in mind. And lastly, there has been sunshine outside. I hope you have been enjoying it as much as I have. Thank you.
Our chalice lighting today is Be Ours a Religion by Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion, which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. are called today to be together, despite pandemics, despite politics, despite time and space and hardship. We are together. And when we are together as a community, amazing things can happen. Our circle of connection has an infinite capacity for growth. Our hearts have so much space for love. Come, let us begin.
Draw the circle wide. It's been tough times. And I was reminded of a practice from Buddhism. It's a Tonglen practice where you take all the woes of the world, all the pain, all the suffering, and you take it into your own heart. It's like you're holding all of those woes. This morning, in a time of meditation, I would love for us to hold all the compassion for the world and for ourselves that we can. If you're physically able, I would love for you to take your two hands, bring them down toward the earth and bring them back up and cross your hands over your heart. And sit and be still for a moment with compassion for our world and for the chaos, for the suffering. And sometimes in our own lives, there is too much pain or suffering that we have no compassion to give to the world. So feel those hands on your heart, feel the compassion and the love of others. Feel what they can offer you that you may go on. And one more time, with your hands over your heart, if you are able, offer compassion, offer hope, offer peace to our world. Amen.
A reading from the Christian Scriptures, Book of Mark, chapter 6, verses 34 to 44. Jesus began to teach the great crowd many things. When it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now very late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy something for themselves to eat." But he answered them, "You give them something to eat." They said to him, "Are we to go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them?" And he said to them, "How many loaves have you? Go and see." When they had found out, they said, 5, and 2 fish. Then he ordered them to get all of the people to sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and 50s. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all. And all ate and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. Those who had eaten the loaves numbered 5,000.
Today, my special guest reader is Emerson. He's going to retell for us the story of the loaves and the fishes. Welcome, Emerson.
Hi, let's get started.
All right.
One day, a famous man named Jesus and his 12 best friends were out in the middle of nowhere. At this point in his life, Jesus was getting pretty famous for spreading his message of love, and people were willing to go out in the middle of nowhere and hear him teach. A lot of people. It was the kind of like Woodstock or Bonnaroo.
Bonnaroo.
So many people came to hear him talk, for they were hungry to hear a message of love, because it was in the middle of nowhere. Most of them had packed lunch, or their mom packed them a lunch. But some people didn't think ahead like that, and it gotta be time to eat. And the nearest store was a long way away, and the food trucks hadn't been invented yet.
Sadly.
So Jesus' friends told him to send everybody home. Instead, Jesus got this idea about sharing. He asked the nearest people how much food they had, and it was 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Jesus explained the situation, that not everyone had brought enough, and would they be willing to share? Word spread throughout the crowd, and that Jesus could keep teaching about love, and if everyone who had packed lunch would be willing to share just a little bit. People were feeling so loving that their generous hearts grew big. It turned out that when everyone could do so little and put some food out to share, that everyone had enough, and they even had leftovers. Keep sharing with your generous hearts, everyone.
So everybody shared? That was really amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yay.
I invite you at this time to join us in singing Come and Go With Me. We will be singing verses 1 through 3.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound.
Thanks, Mitch. Today, I have a bit of a love letter for you. A love letter about Unitarian Universalism. You, I need you. I love you. I need you to survive. An astounding 93% of Unitarian Universalists come to this faith as an adult, myself included, and the majority come out of another faith tradition. Sometimes that feels like Emma Lazarus's poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Maybe it felt like that for you too when you first arrived. I'm not talking to you 7% at this moment, you who had the good fortune to have this faith for a lifetime. For those of us who felt like wretched refuse of a teeming shore, it felt like salvation, a lifeline, a deep breath of fresh air when we didn't even know that we were taking shallow breaths of airplane air. Or maybe we did know, and it was so good to find a faith that made sense, that did not require of us to believe in things that our reason and our intellect did not allow us to believe. A faith that roots itself in shared values and action upon those shared values. Values that say, you're important. Treat others fairly and kindly. Accept each other and always keep learning. You are free to keep evolving your theology. Vote at church and in your community. Your voice matters, especially because of your other values. Work for peace and fairness and a free, fair world. Care for the earth and all of the living things upon it. And our newest, be less racist, actively. Start doing this at church and work your way outward. My fellow UUs, you may have noticed lately a lot of talk about how to best be welcoming. When we get good at extravagantly welcoming people into our faith, it helps us to affirm and promote our 8 principles. It also helps us to do what UUs nationwide have not yet been able to do successfully, yet, which is to significantly grow our movement. This matters because when we grow our movement, we share our values, and our values, when enacted, heal the world. In 1961, when the Unitarians and the Universalists merged, our membership across the nation was almost 152,000. In 2020, our membership across the nation was almost 153,000. Now, one of the reasons I did go into ministry is because I was told there would be no math. Those liars. But this math is pretty simple. In the last 60 years, we've only grown 1,000 people. President Thomas Jefferson, along with President Adams Jr., Fillmore, Taft, they were all Unitarians. Jefferson was president from 1801 to 1809, and he believed that all of America would imminently convert to this faith because it made so much sense, that he and we were at the beginning of a faith movement for the ages. Because if you truly believe in and embrace our values and you enact them in the world around you does begin to heal because of you enacting our faith with your time and your talent and your treasure. The thing is, we cannot grow the movement the way we've been going for the last 60 years. The math tells us we're not quite doing it right yet. The good news is we know how to change it. There's a number of things that we need to do, and here are the top 2. Number 1, the welcoming piece. A lot of us are just so relieved to get here and find our community and fit in. And for some of us, it's harder than others to get past the relief of getting here. Sometimes it's harder to fit in, even across shared values. And that makes it harder to stay. Number 2, and this is critical, we have to invest in religious education. I had the good fortune to receive a ride to the airport from a UU leadership experience back in the fall of 2019, back when we had rides with other people and reasons to go to airports. My ride was from a 3-decade-long senior member of both the Mid-America and Southern Region UU Association congregational life staff. I capitalized on this 30-minute solo ride, and I asked her to help me understand why it felt like there was not enough going on at my home church with regard to faith formation, which is the same size as this one. It felt like offerings for our children and teens and adults were getting the bare minimum. Now, I just been to General Assembly for the first time the summer before. As Andrew mentioned earlier, that's our nationwide annual meeting. And for the newcomers, I'll talk about that more in a minute. So when I was at GA, I heard about all of these amazing things going on, so few of which were even known about in my home congregation. Well, the first thing this senior staff member offered me as a reminder was that faith formation is a lifelong process, that all people at all stages of faith development need support and faith formation. That with faith formation, we are able to stay rooted in our values and act upon them in the world, which heals the world, one person at a time. So there I was with this senior person whose whole job it is to help congregations have the best faith formation programs they can have. And her first question back to me was, well, how big is your congregation and how many faith formation staff members do you have? And I said, well, 350 and 1.5. And she said, well, there you go. She said, in order for us to have a robust faith formation for people of all ages, which, as we know, helps us to attract more people of all ages, that we should have one full-time dedicated staff person for every 100 members. Our math had been all wrong. It was time to shift our thinking in a number of ways. Across the nation, siblings in other faith traditions often grow up to share the faith tradition of their parents. And when they have babies, they grow up in that faith too. UUs are still struggling with this as a faith tradition. Those 93% of adults who come to Unitarian Universalism need for faith formation, just like any other age, and support, ministerially, pastorally, and religiously. As trust builds, their place in our community becomes apparent. And in the stages of faith development, all ages need support while deconstruction occurs, which is a natural stage of faith development. To come in, to build trust, to fall in love with our amazing living tradition and our community, and then to take a step back and say, no, wait a minute. What about that one thing? This is natural. And we need a place to think it through and talk it through and to come out the other side healthy and engaged and spreading the values we share, which heal the world. An example of deconstruction is taking the story of the loaves and the fishes story from my youth and departing from one version of magic and understanding and coming to another. For me, that was leaving the idea of a miracle in the magical sense and arriving at the understanding of the generosity alive and well in that crowd who all shared their lunch. And that magic brings something of its own. We are not exempt from needing the magic of generosity at UUCE in a number of ways. It's nearly time for General Assembly. And if you're interested in attending, our congregation can send an unlimited number of attendees, as well as a small delegation of folks who represent us and vote on our polity. They represent us officially at the nationwide meeting. As Andrew mentioned, if you want to be one of those people, it's called a delegate, and you're a member, just reach out to the board by emailing them, uuceboard@uueugene.org. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. GA was once described to me by one of the co-leads of the Southern region as a cross between a week-long annual meeting and worship service and convention and conference and reunion. It's a lot. It's amazing. It's a space where we, UUs nationwide, come together to covenant and make collective decisions about how to be faithfully UU and live our values for yet one more year. There is strength in numbers, beloveds. It was powerful for me to meet up in person with the people of the UUA who head up our youth, who head up our region, who head up our whole country of people who share the same values as us. Collectively, we are big, and together we are visible. There are many resources and fellow UUs beyond just this church. And there are many people who share our values who have not heard of us yet. In the early 2000s, as information about Catholic leadership sexual abuse scandals unfolded, I was discerning whether or not to remain in my former faith tradition. I asked a trusted friend who shared that faith how he could remain when faced with such evidence to leave. He replied simply, "How could so many people around the world be wrong about this faith?" At the time, his response irked me. I wanted to give him a laundry list of all the reasons that he should stand up for justice and choose differently. With some space and maturity and life living, I see now that what he was telling me was that he wanted to belong. He wanted to know that there were people in great numbers who would affirm that he was on the right path, even if others were faltering. We have great numbers. I didn't really get how many until I saw just a sliver of our might gathered together en masse. There is strength in our numbers. Seeing the strength in the numbers gathered visibly at GA gave me the strength to come home and do the work of our church movement. And if we are to survive as a local church and as a faith tradition, we will need to strengthen our whole life faith formation. We will need to keep it going during the pandemic, which takes time and resources in new and different and sometimes harder ways than before. We will need to not stretch our staff endlessly. We will need to rebuild even stronger when we can be in person again, and truly be hybrid for the first time when we can possibly reach double the people or more. And we need to do everything we can to help people know that they can belong here, so we can grow the faith, so we can heal the world with it. Because you are important to me, this faith is important to me. And your work in living out the values of this faith is important to me. And it's important to our children and their children and their children. You and I need healing too. I need it, and I need you to survive. I need you to survive and grow and flourish. We have a world to heal. Let's get to it.
In this time, I heed you to survive, to hear the words that Dr. Rideout sang to us. We have need of one another. In this time together, we share the most tender parts, the most vulnerable parts of our lives. Here in this community, that we may survive, we share the joys and sorrows of our hearts. If you feel so moved to share any of those, please do so now in the chat. So many offerings of the heart this morning. Appreciation and joy for the weather we're having, for what those daffodils, what those crocus, what the witch hazel represent. Joy for the village that we are. Joy that is being represented. Actually, it's what's being represented is hope in a new life being brought forth. What more hope do we need than a new child, new possibility, hope maybe in the rainbows over the reservoir. Hope because of all of who you are, being the glue of this community. Hope because of confirmation of identity. And at the same time, there is still anxiety. There is still the daily life tasks that we must face. The fact that some of us are able to be vaccinated, others are not. Some still live in states where the governors are not doing the work to help us take on this pandemic. For our youngers, our young adults whose dream of college is a very different dream now, whose possibility for jobs is different now. May we all be reminded as we go forward from this week that we need one another to survive because there's so much that we face together. May we be reminded that our joy and our sorrow live next to one another, each informing the other. Go forward from this morning with hope and maybe a piece of joy, some takeaway from the words, the music, and the silence you have been offered. May it be so.
The Sunday offerings in March go to the Farm Worker Emergency Fund at the Pineros y Campinesos Unidos del Noroeste, Oregon's largest Latino union, which empowers farm workers and working Latinx families. Farm workers and their families have been severely impacted by COVID-19, as well as the economic fallout. In keeping with the worship theme for March, which is commitment, please commit whatever you can to those in desperate need. For additional information about PCUN, go to www.pcun.org. The offering will now be gratefully received. May these offerings of our lives be transformed, that lives may be transformed. Now please join us for our closing hymn, number 1024, When the Spirit Says Do.
Awesome. Our chalice extinguishing today is from an author whose handle is @Terrence_tweets. An activist prayer. Thicken my love, widen my heart, sharpen my analysis, enliven my praxis, embolden my voice, deepen my rest, lighten my heaviness, toughen my skin, soften my spirit, strengthen my friendships, lengthen my endurance, weaken my ego, awaken my soul, refreshen my vision, hearken to my weary voice. Oh God, I am your friend and co-conspirator in the struggle for a new world. Go forth into the new world as co-conspirators in a new effort to share power, share love, share this faith with as many people as you touch daily. May it be so.